Whew. And welcome to my video series called Satan Invented Evolution. This is part 4. If you haven't seen part 1, 2, and 3, check my user profile and you can see the other 3 videos, then return here to part 4. We're going to talk about dinosaurs and the young Earth. Now, if you're a creationist like myself, you've no doubt encountered evolutionists who say, well, where does the Bible talk about dinosaurs? As if they've got us in a corner now and we're like, oh, we've never thought of that before. Here's a sad fact about dinosaurs. They are used more than any other creature to push the evolutionary theory when in fact they are proof of creationism. The biblical view of history, that the Earth is only 6,000 years old, is the only way to make sense of all the discoveries we are now making, such as the unfossilized dinosaur bones with malleable soft tissue and red blood cells in them. The only way for that to be possible is if that dinosaur had died within the last few thousand years. We are recovering a huge amount of artifacts that show dinosaurs lived with man. In 1966, in a cave near Ica, Peru, a man named Dr. Javier Cabrera found 20,000 stones which we now call the Ica stones. These seem to depict giant reptiles, or dinosaurs. Now, what's interesting to note is the circular patterns on the skin of the dinosaurs. Recently we found fossilized dinosaur skin which showed circular patterns on its skin. You have to wonder now, did the people who made those rocks see a living dinosaur? That would certainly make sense. It would explain why they knew to make circular patterns on its skin, which goes against conventional thought of how dinosaurs look. And is there a way we could tell how old those rocks are anyways? Well, an evolutionist will say, yeah, we can find out the date of a rock by checking its radioisotope decay. Radioisotope dating does not work, and I'm going to prove that to you. Now, I'm going to direct you right now to the Talk Origins website, talkorigins.org, which is basically a holy grail for evolutionists and atheists. They love pointing me there. And there is an amazing confession on their attempt to debunk the Ica stones. So I'm going to just point the camera at my screen and I'll show you what they say. talkorigins.org. Their response to the Ica stones. The stones cannot be dated without knowing their source, and their source has never been revealed. Are they saying they can't test a rock unless they know its source? Now, if they would have said, okay, we can date the rock, but that doesn't prove when someone carved an image onto it, that I could understand, but that's not what they said. They said they can't date the rock because they don't know its source, and then right above they say they know it was carved in modern society. So let me get this straight. When they date a rock that they find to be 150 million years old, they know its source then, because they were there. But when they find a rock that was carved from modern society, so they claim they don't know its source, so they can't test it. Oh, I see how this works. Whenever we have evidence that creationism is true, oh, they can't date it. But whenever they have evidence, oh, yeah, it's millions and billions of years old.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
It's so typical of them. It's in everything they do. It's always like that, always. Self-control, self-control, little bit of self-control. Okay. Whew! The format for the rest of my video will be as follows. I'm going to show you that radioisotope dating and carbon-14 dating simply cannot be trusted. Then I'm going to show you dragons, dinosaurs, in the Bible, and I'm going to show you what the Bible has to say about what happened to them, why they aren't around so much anymore. Then I'm going to show you proof for what the Bible says, and then I'm going to show you that the Earth cannot be billions or even millions of years old. Rather, the Earth is only 6,000 years old, around there, like the Bible says. The dating methods that evolutionists rely upon to assign millions and billions of years to rocks are very inconsistent and based on unproven and questionable assumptions. Dating methods that use radioactive decay to determine age assume that the radioactive decay rates have always been constant. Yet, research has shown that decay rates can change according to the chemical environment the material being tested is in. In fact, decay rates have been increased in the laboratory by a factor of 1 billion. All such dating methods also assume a closed system, that no isotopes were gained or lost by the rock since its formation. It's common knowledge that hydrothermal waters at temperatures of only a few hundred degrees centigrade can create an open system where chemicals can move easily from one rock system to another. In fact, this process is one of the excuses used by evolutionists to reject dates that don't fit with their expectations. What's not commonly known is that the majority of dates are not even consistent for the same rock. For Furthermore, 20th century lava flows often register dates in the millions and billions of years. There are many different ways of dating the Earth, and many of them point to an Earth much too young for evolution to have ever had a chance. All age dating methods rely upon unproven assumptions. The presumption that must be made is the amount of carbon-14 in the organism during its lifetime, which is utterly unprovable, of course. Also, the environment this animal lives in is buried in the past, untestable, which can also affect the carbon-14 levels of the animal. Yet scientists assume that the climate and conditions remain the same as we observe today. Of course, we know that's not true either, because we look in the past in the fossil record, and we see animals of all kinds and insects that are huge, as if somehow the environment was radically different. There are even more fatal variables that make this theory even more ridiculous, carbon-14 dating. The next problem is you take the amount of carbon-14 in the dead animal, then check its half-life to claim to know how old it is. However, the assumption is made that you automatically know when the animal died, which is impossible, of course. So, what am I saying here? The environmental assumption of what the animal lived in, and the climate conditions and the atmosphere, compounded with the fact that you don't know how much carbon-14 was actually in the organism when it was alive, along with the fact that you don't know when the organism was actually living, on top of the fact that you don't know how long this dead animal was decaying, makes this form of dating absolutely unprovable. As far as I'm aware, there are only 2 places in the world that are actually qualified to do carbon-14 dating. Now, when you bring them a specimen, they require of you to tell them which layer of strata you found your specimen in. Why is that, and what is a strata layer? Let's talk about that. We are now looking at what is called the geological column, where we can see the various strata layers, so they call them. Now, what is this geological column, and where can we find it? What they claim is every one of these layers is a different time zone, and that, for some reason, mud actually seems to pile up over time, even though the opposite is proven. Erosion goes downhill, not uphill. But whatever, we'll say that magical mud piles upwards. That's fine, whatever they want to say. Anyways, the reason that the carbon-14 dating people require that we tell them what was found in which strata layer is so that they can tell us how old the animal is according to which strata layer it was found. Now, how did they date the strata layers? You guessed it. By the age of the animals they found. You see, the animals date the rocks, and the rocks date the animals. Where in the world can we find the geological column, you might ask? There's only one place, and it's the textbooks. Now, an evolutionist is going to claim that the Grand Canyon is a wonderful place to look at strata layers. However, they're also going to say that it was erosion over millions of years that caused the canyon. So which is it? Did millions of years build up the canyon, or did millions of years bring down the canyon? Now here's a question for you. Where did the mud that eroded go? I mean, if this was all flat, right, well, the mud has to sink down and go where exactly? Have you guys heard of the Grand Canyon on the planet Mars? That thing is 2,500 miles long and 4 miles deep. By comparison, the Earth's Grand Canyon is less than 500 miles long and 1 mile deep. Now here's the kicker. How do scientists say the Grand Canyon on Mars was formed? That's right. Now here's the ironic thing. When I claim that there was a worldwide flood, I get laughed at. But this planet is covered 3/4 in water. If the planet flooded like the Bible says, the Grand Canyon could have been formed in about 5 minutes. Now, when an evolutionist claims that a flood on Mars caused their Grand Canyon to form in about 5 minutes, they get called scientific even though there's not a single drop of water on Mars. Now here's a fact. The only way to get a fossil is to bury the animal quickly. If you take a dead chicken from, say, Swiss Chalet and put it in your backyard, just chain it down, it's not going to last very long. The other animals are going to pick at it, it's going to decompose, weather is going to tear it apart, it's not going to fossilize. You need to bury it. A worldwide flood would bury that thing like that, and it would fossilize. A worldwide flood would bury the dinosaurs. Alright, I'm going to show you a dinosaur in the Bible. Job chapter 40. It talks about an animal called Behemoth, which is the biggest creature God has ever made. It says it eats grass like an ox, and moves his tail like a cedar tree. It says his bones are like beams of bronze, and his ribs are like bars of iron. It says that his strength is in his belly. The Bible also talks about an animal called the Leviathan and the unicorn. The unicorn was not a pink flying horse that sails over rainbows. It was a ferocious, untamable beast in the Bible that can pierce you with its horn, probably like a triceratops. In my next video, I'll show you more proof of the global flood, proof that man lived with dinosaurs, proof that dinosaurs actually never even went extinct, they're just extremely rare, more proof that the Earth is only around 6,000 years old, and that you can't trust what an evolutionist says. This is the end of Part 4, stay tuned for Part 5, check the links on the side, and God bless you all.